de re re na re na re de na re na.
Welcome to that sketchy channel. My name is Piotr, and I bet you didn't know that because I've never told you. And then I thought, why should I hide my name? My name is pretty common. It's Polishized Peter, and that's the name I'm using, even though I'm in the United States since 2001. And I started calling myself Peter as soon as I arrived here. And some of my American friends said, don't do that. Use your real name. This is your real name. And if Americans are struggling to pronounce it, make them work harder a little bit. They need it. So I'm using my actual Polish version of my name. And it's been interesting. I have an extensive collection of mispronunciations. My name has been mispronounced in all possible ways, I think. There's Pietro, there's Pitor, Piotr, Piotro is quite a common one. I already mentioned Pitor. And whenever I introduce myself, I say what my name is. People are, the way you say, what's your name? And you say, either just say your name, or you say, it's Susie, it's Rachel, it's David. And I say, it's Piotr. And then a person who asked me my name would say, nice to meet you, it's Piotr. So I'm being careful now not to say I just say I'm Piotr. And then I give a little bit of a pronunciation tip, which I will put on your screen. My partner came up with this hack for pronunciation. Piotr. And of course my kind of a YouTube nickname, or the name of the channel. I mean, it's officially that sketchy channel, but the name of my channel in general is Advanced Beginner. And I have a few more channels. I'm only running this channel and the fish keeping channel, but I'm not posting as much anymore. YouTube can be pretty discouraging if you are focusing on the number of views you receive from the YouTube. The algorithm makes your first video take off. You have like 2,000 views or something like that. Then every video you post, you get excited and giddy. You post next video, and then you end up with like 80 views, 160 views, and then you're just kind of done. But I think this channel, this channel, I keep going with this because I just shifted the objective for this channel. I don't want the outcome to be just about the number of views or popularity. I upload this video just as a database as a record of my brain droppings over time. And maybe, you know, I'm not sure if I will ever revisit them, but, you know, just to kind of to get out of my own head, maybe I can listen to what was in my head some years ago, months ago. But this drawing, I'm coming back to my preferred meditative type of drawing, where talking and drawing share equal focus. So I focus equally on drawing and on talking at the same time. So both are meditation. And it is quite a good meditation because it gives you something to do. Meditation can be about breathing, or it can be about trying to turn off your mind. And then the operative word trying, that's where you get in trouble. When you're trying, then it never happens. And that's the thing, you just kind of have to get into that mindset where you're not pushing yourself to meditate, you're not trying to meditate. It just is, it just happens. But you don't meditate accidentally, you do have to set out to meditate. Like you have to prepare, like I had to prepare this, the lighting, I had to close the windows because last video was really noisy with the windows open. And I think I can't do it with windows open. And I had to turn off the washing machine again. And preparation can also be meditative, whatever you do. People keep saying mindfulness, mindfulness, mindfulness this, mindfulness that. It becomes kind of a buzzword, like everything else in America. Everything becomes a thing, an entrepreneurial undertaking, an institution. So even things that were supposed to be about nothing, about emptying, became something, became full, became unempty. Like, you know, I don't know if it's a thing, but like I'm imagining like meditation centers selling meditation t-shirts. I bet it's a thing. This country is all about that. And some time ago I drew this comic strip cartoon showing a lady that is clearly stressed out and rushing somewhere, and she's running down up the staircase and just out of breath, and she enters the room, and there are a bunch of people sitting cross-legged, and there's the meditation instructor saying, "Nice of you to join us." And she's all sweaty and apologetic, and then she sits down and starts meditating just 5 minutes late. And it's something that, if it's something that you put in your calendar, it's already too much to be called a meditation. And it's easy to say when you're making a living out of teaching meditation, mindfulness. If you're a monk or if you're a spiritual teacher, and this is your job, and then you teach actual people with actual jobs, accountants, janitors, nurses, soldiers, how to keep their cool and how to meditate. And they genuinely, truly don't have time or bandwidth because it's not their job. And if you have this as your job, then of course you can sit for 8 hours a day and someone will bring you food, clean up around you, take your trash out, and you're all set, and you can meditate. So in this one, I will maybe address some of the beef I'm having with the mindfulness teachers and gurus, and with the tendency for humans to turn everything into cult or religion or institution, or simply put it, a thing. And I don't know, just like I was literally challenged once by my peer at work. It was a fitness related work, and he was just challenging me for my some things I wrote or said about meditation. Maybe I wrote a little joke about it, and he's kind of got really serious and like questioned me, like, do you even meditate? I'm like, what is this? Some kind of like brawl in a parking lot.
Do you even meditate, bro?
And then I just kind of realized that yes, I've been meditating since I was a child. I just didn't know what it was, because I've been doing this, and sometimes I've been sitting with kind of my mind just focusing on sitting itself, or staring into the point at an object, and just kind of staring and enjoying the stare, or looking at trees. And I remember my parents just pestering me about being idle, because being idle is really bad. You shouldn't be idle. It's the worst fear of the system is an idle person. Doing nothing is just dangerous. It suddenly brings ideas, and if you do nothing, you start to realize what's around you, and you start to see all the network of lies that surround you. And people are like, oh, idle hands are the devil's playground. Do something. Be productive. And then if you turn it into a thing, I am productive. I'm a meditation teacher. I make millions of dollars a year. I'm an influencer. I teach mindfulness. And they'll leave you alone. They're like, oh, okay, in that case, you're making a living. This is your job. So good luck. It's when you do something that doesn't bring any monetary gain that becomes suspect. Everything else, I mean, there are some professions that people still frown upon, even if it does bring a lot of funds and money. Like being in a mafia. Breaking Bad comes to mind. But even then, like, oh, look at all his money, and like suddenly having a lot of money brings a newfound respect. Everybody wants a piece of you. And I'm just starting to fish out some shapes here. Maybe it's too early. Maybe I should just let it go and meditate. What I like to achieve is just sort of really letting go, and rather than striving to draw something, anything, I'm just focusing on how the graphite lead is how it feels to kind of just the friction of the graphite lead. And there are some bumps in the paper that are unpredictable. Sometimes there is a little grain of clay, because the graphite is basically a mixed clay with, the pencil is pure graphite with some clay mixed in. And the more clay, is used, the harder the pencil is. And sometimes some of the softer pencils have like a little maybe grain of dust or sand from that clay that didn't really blend with the graphite, and you can kind of almost feel that resistance. It's like scratching against the paper, and then it kind of rubs off, and it's very satisfying. So like there's a lot of this tactile, auditory, and even olfactory experiences. Olfactory. So tactile, touch, olfactory, smell, and auditory, sound, and visual, of course. But the visual is the one that you get, and maybe some of the auditory experience, because you hear some of this rubbing, and the voice, of course, which is unrelated to drawing. But what you want to experience is olfactory element. It's basically just that, and also tactile. You will not really experience unless you start drawing your own drawing. So the most recent video was fun. It was 3 heads I drew from imagination, without prep. I just went for it, improvised, but because it was very specific. I ended up losing my focus on the part where I'm thinking of things to talk about and saying things, and I kind of ended up focusing on just the process, and I gave you some drawing tips which I hope are useful and helpful, but I think I wanted to revert to this method, and especially when I'm tired. It's sort of really nice to kind of forget about everything and meditate with this motion, the circular motion of the pencil, and have something emerge, but without worrying about it too much, because everything goes here. I don't have to worry that, it has to be a human face, so I have to keep up with certain requirements, and here it's just whatever I happen to draw is fine. Even like little accident happens like this. Sometimes there's like a little dip in the paper, and I end up trying to correct it, and then it becomes darker and darker, and then I end up with this dark spot on the paper. But I welcome it. And have some darker tone. Sip of tea. It's a chamomile, honey, and vanilla blend. Pretty good. So there'll be some silent parts. I should probably try not to force the monologue. When I don't have anything to say, just quiet down and draw. And even if I have to, I can just put the video footage on a time lapse, which I've never done because I keep bubbling and talking. So, maybe I can read something. Added in post-production. I like editing videos, and even this channel, which is just a continuous footage, I like to insert little tastes of things that I'm talking about. It's been fun to research and find them. And yeah, I don't know, it's sometimes I happen to say something funny accidentally, and then I'm like, oh, that's funny, I'm going to say it, and it's going to be a riot. But it's only those who are super patient will get to those parts, because they are hidden amongst extremely boring narration. But I also noticed that I feel like my ability to articulate is improving. So like I always felt like when I had a thoughts are very quick, and sometimes you feel like your thought is actually already formulated into words, but then when you try to articulate that thought, you fail. You don't have words for that feeling you want to convey, or the meaning. And now I'm getting a little more comfortable with matching my words to the thoughts I had, and just using the right words. And I enjoy the element of slowing down when I say things. That's why I'm quite reluctant to just stop talking and just start either just abandon thinking altogether, or just not talk and just think. Because the reason I'm talking, I'm putting my thoughts into words, is to slow down my racing brain. And if I don't do that, if I just keep quiet and draw, then my thoughts are like a runaway train, and then I can stop it. So, and not that I'm suffering from like intrusive thoughts or rushing mind, but it's just huge difference between just thinking and articulating what you're thinking. So like, why not think out loud? And the trap that I'm also practicing not falling into the trap of I call it a high school syndrome, where you are obliged to always be an erudite and to always say something funny or interesting. But not just whenever you talk, always. So you basically are on all the time when you are with your peers, and you have to keep talking, and you have to keep being lively and funny and interesting, and just exhausting. I remember that exhaustion, and then sometimes I would just burn out, and I would keep going, and then people would tell me that wasn't too funny, that you lost your you lost your funny, and because I was just burned out. And then I kind of got a little quieter, because I didn't want to risk saying something stupid just because I'm trying too hard to be funny and interesting. So I'm trying not to repeat that mistake here, although I'm catching myself on like when I'm quiet, I'm like, oh my god, I don't have anything interesting to add. This video will be a disaster. Oh, and sometimes another thing that happens, I think in this video it won't happen as much. You can see my hair because the camera is right here. There's one thing I might have forgotten to do. Yeah, so there's this function in the phone camera to lock your focus so that the camera doesn't wander. It's focused on this plane here, and when you lift your hand, it's not in focus because your focus stays down there. And I'm glad that I figured out how to do this. Locked focus. And so far, I think the only thing that bothers me in the phone footage is that the graphite drawing isn't sharp enough. Like, I feel like there's still some kind of artifacts that you can see. It's not as crisp as I would like, but it's probably like the compression in YouTube. Because like if you just do any other YouTube video, maybe I should get a camera that's a lot better for it. Maybe there's a specialized camera that can be used only to record two-dimensional art. So I should probably look into it. And another thing I should look into is how to store my video, because I've been deleting the original footage because I just simply don't have space for it. My computer is choking, my phone is choking. I have to just... And I think one thing I have to get is some kind of external storage box to keep all my videos intact, because they're always, it can be handy. Maybe I'll do compilation at some point. Maybe I will try to fish out all these funny parts and then put it into one video. And that way I will give you the funniest bits, or most interesting bits from this channel so far. Because they're just buried. They're like pearls, you have to dive for them and pull them out of a squishy jelly body of an oyster. Okay, so we got some guts and fibers. And I think I'm going to take brief breaks in between, because sitting too long is never good for you. So I'm going to kind of take a stretch break. Which is part of an exercise too, because it kind of raises the question, can you keep your focus if you go in smaller bursts, if you interrupt yourself? Because often the success for meditation is continuity. And you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and if you interrupt it, then you lose that. You feel like you're falling off of a bike. But if I don't interrupt myself and don't stretch once in a while, then I'm going to be sorry later. I'm going to be achy, and I will lose all my mobility. So the practice of stopping is part of the meditation. And then if you think about it, like everything can become a practice. Whatever you do can become a practice. Like, can I interrupt this meditation without feeling a sense of loss about it or failure? Can something interrupt me, and can I be okay with it? Because people are sometimes mistakenly thinking that meditating needs to be done in a total quiet, and you should never be interrupted, and if you are interrupted, then it's all for nothing. And sometimes meditation is confused with some kind of weird state of hypnosis where someone is so deep into it that they don't know what's going on around them. But that's the opposite. It's actually strengthening that sense of what's going on around you and your place in the universe. You actually are sharpening your awareness. And I had something else to add, but I forgot. Oh, yes. There's another kind of question I have, or beef I have with some of the mindfulness teachings, which is to be so calm, the need to be so calm that nothing bothers you anymore. And you are calm even if there's something slightly disrupting happening, maybe noise, maybe this, maybe that. But my beef with this is that there are things that are genuinely unhealthy for you. And if you just chilled about them, then you will fail to break away from these unhealthy things, because you'll be like, I have a wallpaper soaked in poison or lead. I have asbestos in my apartment, but I'm totally relaxed about it. And then before you know it, you're relaxed, but also your brain is melting, and you have neurological disorders. So there's this sort of disconnect, because on one hand, did mindfulness teachers really stress the importance of healthy lifestyle, the good diet, hydration and exercise, sleep. But on the other hand, they tell you to be okay and chill about all these disrupting things like noise. Noise has very detrimental. That's redundant. Noise has detrimental effect on human health. It makes you more irritable. It keeps you from sleeping, and the lack of sleep makes you just less focused, irritable, fatigued. You might even have hallucinations. It's like, it's not worth it. It's like, I'm not going to be chill about things that I know that are harmful to my health. And sometimes people give me a lot of hairy eyeballs for complaining about stuff like noise. Oh, that guy is complaining all the time. It's just leaf blowers, leave it alone. But that's the thing, like, people complained about stuff in the past that now are considered really harmful or really bad, and we don't do those things anymore. But back then there were other people saying, oh, come on, what's a little cocaine in the soda, or lead in the paint, or in the gasoline? It was just one person who raised the alarm about content of lead in gasoline, and everybody was laughing and pointing fingers. So don't know, I have to kind of take everything with a grain of grain of salt, or sand. And I mean, it's easier to be relaxed about all these bad things, but I don't think it helps, because if you are relaxed about bad things, then you let them persist or let them happen. You are actually complicit in letting those bad things perpetuate or happen. So it's okay to be unbothered by someone saying something stupid to you to hurt you, or or an event, maybe a failure. That's healthy, to be totally unfazed by those kind of circumstances. But there are a few things that I don't think we should be relaxed about. In Victorian times, people have arsenic in their wallpapers. If you visited a person, someone who had bright green wallpapers, you should be sure that this wallpaper is soaked with arsenic, because that's the way they achieved that nice bright green color. And this is just really, I don't know why people torture themselves so much. Like in Victorian era, if you were outside in the summer, you would even go to the beach and you would still be like dressed with layers and layers upon layers of clothes. It would be indecent to take even one of those layers off. And the women wouldn't be able to show their elbows and ankles or knees. And the beaches had like separate dressing booths for men and for women, or there maybe have been like separate sections for men and for women. What kind of life is that? People were okay with this too, because they were smug about it. Oh, it's indecent to act like this. And we still have a few of those things still persist. Like, it's not right to do this or that. If you're 50, you're not supposed to be playing in the playground or frolic. Where's your dignity, man? You should be wearing a hat and a suit, and you should be walking down the street with a briefcase, and the only reason you run is because you're late for the bus or you're late for the meeting. And I sometimes feel like I get caught in this sort of frenzy of stress, even with small things. Like the other day, I was supposed to travel somewhere, and it was the trip that would occur one day after the previous trip. So I would have just one day at home to do the maintenance of all my aquariums. I have like 12 aquariums. I have maybe 9 active tanks that have creatures in them that need feeding. So I had to set up feeders and all the auto top-off systems and change water in them, water change like 25%. It takes time, it takes water, it takes energy, so I kind of burned myself out by the end of the day. And in fact, I was so exhausted and stressed that I just ended up not going to that other trip. So my spouse went. She's there now. She's in Chicago, and I said, no, I don't think I can go. I'm not done, and I'm just fried, and there's a lot more stuff I have to do, and the only way I can do them is if I don't go. So I stayed. But what helped me decide also was that I was going to go to Chicago, and it was supposed to be really dangerous weather in Chicago this week, so today actually, but it wasn't. It turned out not to be as bad. So oh well, maybe I'll go next time, because she goes quite often, and sometimes I like to visit the plains of this country with the big lakes and cornfields. Chicago is interesting. It's a metropolis in the middle of a cornfield. If you drive a few miles away from Chicago, in any direction, you will find yourself in a cornfield, and basically there's really no need to make the roads curve. So all the roads are just straight line. You drive, you might fall asleep while driving, and you would still be fine, because the worst case scenario is you would end up in a corn. And there's barely any other cars, and a lot of religious radio stations. And when you go through towns, there are like on one street you would see like 4 different churches of different Christian denominations: First Baptist, Second Baptist, and Anglican, and Catholic, and all sorts of churches. So that's pretty interesting lore of this country. Yeah, America is quite a complicated country, because sometimes people simplify the way they think about it. They say, oh, America is a stupid country, or America is this, America is that. But it's such a complex country. Of course, it's the stupidest country in the world, but also it's the smartest country in the world. It's, there are extremes. If you have such a huge country basically spanning across almost entire continent, then you will have a little bit of everything, because there's just so much range. And it's unfortunate that there are a few things that suffer, like education. People don't really learn critical thinking at school. And I don't know if the internet makes it better. For now, I feel like even though internet is this like a source of all knowledge that we have at our fingertips, humans don't take advantage of that fact, and they just basically just take a chunk of this entity, which is internet, and they use it to their own misinformation, propaganda. They are satisfied with just sloppy pseudoscience and misinformation, and with like going with only with what feels good to them. It's kind of hard to say how the humans will do, because they're so complex. There are people working on some very useful things right now as we speak, finding ways to improve quality of life and environment. Despite of losing the funds for the research. of the same, more of the same. Well, I'm thinking that I'm probably not going to finish this one in one sitting, because I feel like I have to stretch again. And I think I'm going to do 1/3 today, and 2/3 tomorrow, and then I will finish on the third day, so it could be a 3-part video. And I might also put the 3 parts into one video, but only if I use time lapse for the quiet parts, or parts where I say embarrassing things and I don't want people to hear them. But it's hard to tell, because I do enjoy the aspect of slow TV in this. So if you put a time lapse on any other slow TV footage, like fireplace or mountain stream or a train, then what's the point? The very point of this exercise is to slow down and to really kind of delight in the grittiness of time, just literally taking your time is a great catchphrase, it's a great expression. It's like claiming something that would otherwise be taken away from you. So you take your time. Take as much time as you need, because all you need is time, basically. And that's something that most of us don't have. Human lifespan is pitifully short. Like, if we're lucky, we live to 100. But even 100 years it's just ridiculously short period. What's 100 years? It's nothing. You can do 100 push-ups and be done. It's just sort of kind of thinking about your time on this earth in this kind of very detached mathematical way can give you shudders, because like, think of it like you have how many nail clippings will it take in your entire life? How many nail clipping sessions? How many haircuts will you have? And there's a fixed number. This many haircuts you will get during your life, and it's like kind of a pitiful number, like, I don't know, 300, probably more. But like, this makes you think about how short human life is. And it would be kind of, I don't know, I feel like I could use a little more, but like, how long would I go? Like, I wouldn't mind extending life to, say, 300 years. 300 is quite a nice chunky period of time, and you get to see a lot of interesting changes. Maybe you will change your own career a bunch of times, become a new person, kind of like you go into a cocoon and you emerge a new entity. So like, I think to some extent it already does happen in our life. If we live long enough, then we can tell how our life is divided into these periods, and it feels as if we re-emerged. We kind of parted ways with that old self, and we re-emerged anew as something else, like a butterfly. Or we keep, or like snakes. Snakes kind of shed their skin on the side of the road sometimes, and they leave that shell of their former self, and they move on, and the new skin keeps growing, and then that gets worn out, and then they shed that skin, and we sometimes it feels like that's what happens in our life. And it's good. Change is good. Change is the only thing that's constant, which is another thing that the mindfulness teachers tell us. And everybody claims, most people claim that their way is the way, the only way. But the only way is the way that works. If you tried this, it didn't work, then that's not it. Then you have to try something else. And if that works, and then someone tells you this works, and then you try it, it doesn't work, then you realize that they lied to you, or maybe you did it wrong or something. And someone tells you this works, and then you try it, and that works for you, then it's settled. But then it turns out that it works only for a fixed period of time, and then you have to come up with something new. That's another thing that can happen. So there has to be some kind of universal way of thinking, of living. And so far what was found was accepting change is very helpful, and mindfulness, and just settling in the present moment. That's a big one. That's almost like a cliche of teachings. Present moment. But it's also it's easy to fall into a trap, because then people become very dogmatic about it, and then they take it so seriously that they always want to be in the present moment. They never wander, their minds never wander, they never have memories. They suppress their good and bad memories. They don't think about the future, so they don't plan. They don't speculate about trajectories that can be possible. Strategy is about thinking about the future, and that the wrong understanding of the mindfulness teachings will lead to creating these people who are just staring into the void. They're catatonic. They want to anchor themselves in the present moment, but they will not read a book, because the book is not real. It's not in here, it's not now. And its book is just kind of like dwelling on something, on the past or the future, or on the unreal. They don't want to do that. They want to be anchored in reality. So there's no storytelling in their life, no strategizing, no memories. They don't look at old photographs, no nostalgia. I can't part with my nostalgia. I need that. Once in a while I'm putting on the 80s music, and I'm transporting myself back to those days, and it's a great escape. Escapism is good. Escapism isn't wrong. It's very important, it's necessary. And you can be mindful about your escapism too. Because the worst thing to do is to be delusional, to kind of become a believer in a delusion that is not of here and now. But knowing the difference between daydreaming or storytelling and reality. Apparently that's a skill that's also problematic in many people. So like if you are a storyteller, you're on the stage, there's some kind of fake spotlight on you, and people know that this is a fiction, but that doesn't stop them from being transported to the story, from crying about the fate of the characters, or being happy and cheering for them. We need that. And many times watching meaningful TV or film is a therapy. It's like a catharsis. You actually learn compassion from watching a TV show. Like when I watched The Handmaid's Tale, I think my empathy increased by at least 30% watching it, because I was just really experiencing all these ordeals with the characters, because it was so realistic. And then when they achieved some kind of victory, then I was cheering with them, and when they were suffering, I suffered with them. So it's very helpful to have fiction, to learn things, to have that catharsis. And that was the function of even the oldest theaters, the oldest play the Greeks wrote. It's to teach people. It's sort of like almost like learning through play, like sparring, when animals are playfully fighting each other. Fiction and plays and TV shows and movies are our practice for when a problematic situation strikes, or tragedy. How will you take it? How will you behave? And what's the right thing to do for you? And a lot of times we derive a lot of behaviors from our role models that are fictional. Like people say, I'm going to be like Superman, or I'm going to be like Erin Brockovich, who's not a fictional character, but there was a movie about her. I'm going to be like, I don't know, Jeffrey Dahmer. That would be a very bad role model. That's kind of, the entertainment and movie industry and theater and books provide us with role models, which is also why it's so important that we don't read crappy stories that provide horrible behavioral models for us. Like I think a lot of love stories distorted the way love can be, and there's really not one way for love to be in a certain way, because there's so many people with many different preferences, and I mean there are some basic needs that have to be met, but there's not one model of how to do the love thing. And yet there's this model of like, if you are a man, you're supposed to woo your lady, and she's supposed to be submissive because you're the man, and then you should just be persistent. That's the one that gets me. Like, be persistent and until she gives in, right? So like, seriously, are you going to be a stalker now? How is that a good thing? A lady should never invite a boy to a date. She should never move first, because that makes her into who. And like, why? If she likes him and he's like kind of slow, he doesn't have a clue, then she can push things around along a little bit more and makes things happen. And all this like ritual of buying the ring and then kneeling on one knee. I think, are you supposed to kneel on one, like right knee and hold that piece of jewelry up in that box, and then she covers her face with her hands and gasps, and it's usually on the beach, and she says, "Oh my God, yes," and he's like, "Yay." And then what? They have to plan a wedding. Everybody wants to play a part in their wedding. Parents are having their own ideas and have to order flowers and pay the priest and all this stuff. Get the tailor to measure your body to fit a dress and a suit and all that, because you decided to legalize your union, your relationship with another person in the eyes of the state, so that then you can pay taxes together, and then you're stuck together because it's impolite to part ways for some reason. You're not supposed to, it's for life. You're stuck now. Why? There are a lot of things that we don't consider, we don't think about. We just take it for granted. It's kind of like when we have BO. I mean, we don't know about it because it's been with us for a long time and we don't smell it anymore. And only others can tell us. You stink, dude. So I think this could be our first part, although I'm starting to get into the groove. And I like kind of ranting about our societal expectations. And I like pulling carpets from under the feet while quietly drawing. There's a mischief in it. Question things. Why is it this way? Why is it that way? Why is there money? What's the money for? Like, it's some tokens that you have to have in order to survive, because someone decided that being born means that then you have to survive, and to survive you have to play a game, and the rules are set up by the game masters, who arbitrarily decided that you need those tokens. You need to work hard or hustle or maybe steal the money or be like a scammer to get all this money, and then everything is revolving around it, and everything we see around us is because of that need for making money. So like we see stupid things, we see other, why is this art popular? Because it brings more money, so people keep doing it. Sometimes if it brings more money, it doesn't mean that it's good, but this means only that people will keep doing it. And all the marriage things also comes down to money. Basically sharing your funds, your money, unless you sign a prenuptial agreement, which is a kind of a contract The poor bastard want to marry a rich princess, or the opposite. A peasant girl want to marry a prince. Then, in order to avoid any suspicion that that poor person will eventually want to be in this relationship only for the money, then the prenuptial agreement is signed, where the poor person promises not to inherit any of that money that the spouse has. And in some ways it's actually a good thing to do, because if there's any doubt, any suspicion, even shade of suspicion that you marry someone just for the money, then this agreement will put a stop to it. Because you're like, no, I'm not here for the money. I don't want the money. I'm going to sign this paper that says that I'm not in it for the money. But on the other hand, it makes the rich partner look bad, because then they're considered a greedy person. Like, oh, you don't want to share money with your own spouse? Why? So it's like kind of another kind of gray area. It's hard to hard to judge it. We're talking about some adulting stuff today. That's another phrase coined. Adulting is a word that has been coined not too long ago. And I'm glad it had to be coined, because up to this point everybody was expected to just finish high school and become grown up. It's just get kids, go to the army or go to work, get married, have some kids, and no more frolicking. The youth is over. And then, there's a generation of people that don't know how to pay bills, who don't know how to send a letter in the post office, and all this adulting stuff, how to fill out the form, how to apply for driver's license. They just don't know, and they call it all adulting. And I don't know, should I judge them, or is it some kind of disorder, some kind of anxiety? Because myself, I hate bureaucracy. I don't like adulting. Like, in no reality, and there's no alternate universe in which I would run for office or go into politics. It's just tedious. I don't know how people do that. Just constantly dealing with people who are questioning your judgment or trying to unseat you, or like going to those tedious meetings, people's ego, and like just really tiring. So I'm not a leader, nor am I a follower. Try to figure that one out. But is it truly possible to be outside of that game? That's the question. Should I either be a leader? Should I either be an eater or predator or a prey? Are there only those two options, or do we have any little wiggle room as humans? I don't know, if you're not a leader, you're automatically a follower, or automatically a subject of oppression, right? But then if you're not a leader nor you want to be a follower, then the oppression comes, then you bite, you kick. That's the thing. People in America think that owning a gun will automatically keep them safe and keep the tyrant at bay. But it's not about the weapon, it's about your own will to say no, to stand up. And you don't need a gun for it. In Ukraine, before the Putin war, people didn't have weapons, and they were given weapons. Whoever could stay and fight was given a weapon, and that was it. And it was not owning. They didn't pre-own any weapons. They didn't have a Second Amendment in Ukraine, but they had the fighters' will to defend their country, and that was enough. And then when you have that, then if something bad happens, you get your weapons and you fight. I don't know why it's so backwards in this country. It's like, oh, I'm going to have a gun, and then, only then I'm going to be courageous enough to stand up. Have you tried without weapons? What would happen if you stood up without hiding behind your AR-15? Have you ever tried it? Or are you nothing without your weapon? It's almost like an anxiety disorder. You need your little security blankie to function, to be made whole. And the key is to be whole with your bare knuckles and stand up. And then if need arrives and there's no other choice, then you acquire all the means necessary to defend yourself, your family, your country, everything you stand for. And sometimes the gun is the last thing that you might want to use. There are other ways. And it's not always violence too. In fact, most of the time it was non-violence that changed the world. Most of the time, or about equal parts. I don't know. There's been research done about it. Like, when did good change arrive in a country A used force, people used force, and country B non-violent resistance. And there are a few examples. Solidarity movement in Poland. There were casualties on the side of the opposition because the regime was ruthless, but the takeover was totally violence-free in the late 80s. I don't know where else. Hungary. There was election and they kicked out the dude. Orban was kicked out by the will of the people. And it was so overwhelming that no amount of rigging the election would help Orban stay. So there was really no way to deny the defeat. So I'm having trouble stopping, and that's one of the skills that is being practiced by the mindfulness gurus, the practice of stopping. And I kind of feel like I want to finish the first part with something nice, something that is a nice segue, or maybe something that's closing it very nicely. And I can't think of of anything. Maybe I should just end it very abruptly.